Hey everybody, David here. Thanks for being with me every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 p.m. for all you guys out there, California time, out on the West Coast. Speaking of California, that's what we're going to be talking about, California. So if you're in California, and even if you're not, I want you to snuggle up real close because I feel like God has something he wants to share with us. I have Monty with me on the line. Monty, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
And you live in California, right?
Yeah, I live here.
It's the way you said it. It's the way you said it. You mentioned to me California is an incubator for the deep state. Now, let me clarify deep state to you guys, and I'm sure most everybody knows it, but deep state is not the state in which you see. It's not the state in which you live. It's the shadow government. It's what you don't see. It's what is going on around you that you've been programmed. And we'll get into that later. But Monty, California, an incubator for the deep state. Can you explain that?
Well, like we were talking before, I think that there is an agenda to move us into more of a restricted world, similar to what first step would be socialism, then into communism. But I see that area of bondage is what they want to pull us into, and I think that what I'm seeing in California is that they're using it as a test ground to see how much the people will tolerate and how far they can push them before they get pushed back. And
Okay.
that's why I
So,
call it an incubator. It's a test area. It's a beta
okay.
test.
So what you're saying is what's happening in California. Everyone should look at because it's a model for what could happen across the rest of the United States and then across the world. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I mentioned to you, and you know this, I think, Google, Yahoo, all the FANG stocks, all the FANG companies have moved to California, especially to Los Angeles now. They've gathered under one umbrella. Uh, do you think there's a reason for that? I mean, you think that's just by coincidence that they've all gathered together?
No, I would say that there's some type of a coordinated effort to come in and create some kind of synergy with that close proximity.
Oh, oh, okay. To help fulfill that agenda of California being the incubator for the deep state, to be part of that.
Exactly. It's a
Gotcha. Okay.
coordinated effort.
Okay. Now you mentioned Facebook. You talked about DARPA. Would you tell us about what Facebook originally was and what's going on, the history of Facebook and where it is now?
Well, Facebook was before it was Facebook. DARPA, which is a Defense Research and Development branch of the government, they do a lot of the black projects that are out there. They had developed a tool called LifeLog, and LifeLog was a project to gather intelligence on people and to build a database that could be used to find connections between different groups. So if you're working in spycraft or covert or overt operations, and you need to find out who's talking to whom, they had developed this tool to do this. The problem is they needed to fill it with data, and getting people to give up that data would be very difficult if they told them what it was for, and they couldn't collect it on themselves because it's illegal to do that kind of stuff in the United States. We have laws against that. So they took the tool, the software, and they gave it to the private sector, and that's what I believe became Facebook. And they didn't have to go search for the data; people gave it to them freely, and they began to
Wow.
develop a database
And,
on everybody who
wow.
you, what your connections are. It's all right there.
And who paid for this?
The Central Intelligence Agency, I think, released the original contract for it.
Wow. The CIA. Wow.
Yeah,
Now, you worked, you're no chump, Monty. You worked for Boeing, correct?
yeah, I'm retired from Boeing. That is
Yeah.
correct.
So I mean, you've been around. It's not like you don't know you haven't been there, done that. It's like you kind of touched on it a little bit. Working for Boeing, did that give you a little bit of revelation, or were you able to see certain things that other people don't see?
Yeah, quite a bit. Half my career at Boeing was on black projects, which were classified projects. The other half I worked on commercial aircraft. So it was about
Wow.
evenly split.
Oh, wow.
But within that world, you see a lot of things, even if it's very compartmentalized, and
Okay.
that's done that way on purpose, to
O-
protect the intelligence. But you
Okay.
still see a lot of things.
Okay. Okay. Is it fair to say, because you worked on a lot of black projects, which is highly, it's restricted, right? I mean, most people aren't going to know anything about it.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that right?
very true. When I
Okay.
first started with the company, Lisa didn't even know who I worked for.
Okay. So it's a lot of restricted projects, meaning the John Doe is not allowed to know anything about it. Would you say that most of this is done for the purpose of controlling us, as in Matthew 24 and what Jesus talked about the end times in the book of Revelation?
I think it is the basic building block for that. Yes, that's where it'll eventually lead. And
Okay.
we're giving them the information to do it. And if
Uh,
you think about it right now, my wife and I were talking today. One of the most insidious parts about all of this is that, you can look at your people can research your social media. And if they don't like what they see on it, they can keep you from getting a job. They can keep
uh,
you from doing business with them, which, when
uh,
you think about what the Antichrist, one of his hallmarks is that if you take the mark of the beast, you're not going to be able to buy, sell, or trade. I think this is the first steps of it in providing them the information to be able to limit that.
Oh, absolutely. And on that note, I tell people to go to Roku, go to davidheavener.tv. We're on Roku, but you can access it through your computer. Folks, why is this? Monty's telling you it's not just me. There's going to come a day they are going to flip that switch. And if you're watching me on Facebook right now, or you're watching me on YouTube, there's going to come a day you will not be able to get this information. It'll be gone. But if you go right now to davidheavener.tv and you get on where it's a different platform, they're not going to take this down. We have 7 channels of truth. We're going to keep pumping the truth out. It's only $3.99 a month. It's very cheap. Get on now while you can. At least they're still allowing me to bring on subscribers. Okay, and I think they will for a while. But you need to act right now. So Monty, you were with Boeing. Were you in the military?
I was in the Air Force for 6 years,
Okay.
and I got out of the military and went to work for North American Aviation. I've worked for Lockheed Skunk Works, worked for Boeing, McDonnell Douglas. So I've been around the block when it comes to aviation.
Okay. Thank you for your service. I appreciate that.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. Okay. So I want to wrap this up by bringing California back into the picture. They've all moved to California, the FANG stocks, okay, Netflix, and you guys know where I stand on Netflix. Okay, they promote child pornography. They have all kinds of things going on. We talked about Facebook, okay? Now, here's what's important. And Monty, you and I talked about this, and I want you all to listen to me. Is God judging California? Is it going to judge California? Is God going to correct California? You see, there are a lot of believers in California. Should those believers leave? If you're a believer and you're in California and God's giving you well, let's touch on the judgment first. The judgment. Is God judging California, or you think he's going to correct California?
Well, I would sure like to see him correct it, because there's not a more beautiful place in the world. But I think it is going to be judgment.
Okay.
Uh, the shedding of innocent blood does not go unaddressed. And
Okay.
when Cain killed Abel, Abel's blood cried from the ground. And you look at the things that these places are advocating. You talked about the pedophilia. You talked about we have an issue with sex trafficking here in California, and human
Right.
trafficking. All
But
those things are going to bring that about.
right. So but Monty, my question is, shedding of innocent blood, isn't innocent blood shed across the United States, across the world? Is it just California doing it? I mean, what's California doing that's over and above beyond the rest of the United States, or are they?
Well, like, one of the things, you look at the rest of the United States is trying, not the rest of it, but a good part of the U.S. is trying to restrict access to abortion. I see that as infanticide, and I think that's one of the things that does make God angry.
Okay.
California, because very few people, legitimate ethical doctors don't want to do it, is mandating that it's now placed in the universities here, access to abortion. So they were pushing for abortion clinic, abortion access in the universities across California.
Oh, okay. So are you saying that, again, what happens in California, what begins here, it's an incubator. It kind of starts here and goes across the country. And that's what we're going to be held accountable for, correct?
Exactly. What they're going to do is they
Okay.
test stuff here. If they can get
Okay.
away with it here, they go, they
Okay.
try it in other places, and
Okay.
they keep doing that and refining the model.
Okay.
And again, the objective is to put as many people in bondage and under control as possible. That's the objective.
Okay. All right. Should people who live here, and if they can move, if they have the means, it seems to me that they would want to leave. I know there's people out there living, because I know you're listening. You'd like to leave California. Do you think God calls people out of places like this to, as He did Noah with the ark, go build your ark, and you're gonna float away safe? Do you think He's actually calling people out of California?
I think he called people out a while ago. And I think what we're seeing right now economically here, people are being forced out by economics.
Yeah.
And I think God is using that as a way to facilitate that as well.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
there is another hand on that. You may be called to this mess.
Yeah.
And if you are, that boils down to your relationship with the Lord, and you got to know.
Amen. And that's what I was going to tag on, is God may be calling people out, but guess what? God may be calling people in. And you know what? If you're here in California and you're out there listening, which I know you are, we have a lot of beautiful California people that watch this gathering, that come to the gathering. We love you. I love you. I pray for you. You pray for me. I am in no way insinuating that you guys need to get up and leave, or that this is a terrible, Monty and I aren't talking about this is a terrible state because of people like you and the people. We're talking about the condition of the darkness, okay? If you are called to stay here, let me tell you this. You are a member of the body of Christ. I support you. I pray for you.